In the studio, we've got mum of three, Rachel Halliwell. She says children should be kept away from the scales in the classroom. And beside her, weight loss expert Steve Miller, he says teachers intervening is the only hope for some children who are overweight. Why do you say that, Steve?
Well, I think it's children. We've got to be sensitive. That's the first thing to say. And I mean, I always say I don't have children, so who am I to have an opinion? But I'll give it. We are now in a situation where we have got a big child obesity epidemic. You know, if you think about it, in the last 4 years, 40% increase in type 2 diabetes in children.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And
is it 1 in 3 children are obese by the time they leave primary school?
A third. I've got some figures here. Between the age of 2 and 15, a third of children overweight or obese. Now, I know there's a lot of discussion about, you know, what's overweight with a child, and I think that has to be tightened up a little bit more, you know, to make it real. But we have got a problem, and it's just not going to... And what we're talking about here is weighing people once... weighing the kids once a year.
But I think, Steve, what people are thinking, and Rachel, you may be amongst them, is that somehow it's a walk of shame and it's all going to be done in public. I'm assuming you're brought into a back room, you're weighed and your stats are confidentially recorded.
Yes, I expect so, and I think what Steve and I both agree on is that obesity is a crisis. We have a crisis in this country. And, you know, 1 in 3 children leaving school overweight or obese, leaving primary school overweight or obese is terrible. But what we're doing, we need to find a really good, solid solution to this. And weighing children and calling them fat is
But they're not. No. This is where I get cross. Because you're suggesting that the teachers and people and parents will start calling children fat. That's unfair. Listen, I have read headlines in the last few weeks, in the last few months, where children have died of obesity-related illness. So if this measure can help save life, which I believe it can contribute to, I don't see there's a problem with it. It's got to be done sensitively. It's got to be done with care. But here we go again.
Also, Rachel, this is the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health who are calling for this. Yes. They're saying that we need to stop this obesity epidemic, time bomb, they're calling it.
Yeah,
so, you know, is it the fact that people won't even use the word fat anymore that's become the problem? That it's like we're all closing our ears to it?
We're normalising fat, Rachel.
I think this is a huge problem. It's a problem for society, and I think that weighing children is a very tiny part. It's a very small, ineffectual solution to a huge problem.
Where would you
I think
start?
I'd start with we need to, schools can be involved, but in that they teach children proper home economics. That we're not, you know, there was somebody. Just a minute, Steve. There was somebody talking on Twitter the other day about how their child had come home from a cookery lesson, and that lesson had involved buying a packet of puff pastry, a packet of sausages, put the sausages inside the puff pastry, and hey presto, you've made homemade sausage rolls. That is not...
So you think we should blame the teachers and not say to the parents, actually, if you're going to have a child, the health and weight of your child is primarily your responsibility. And actually, if you're not willing to take that on, you shouldn't have kids.
Right, so say you weigh the children, you send home a letter to the parents who of the children who come out as being classed as overweight. What next? What do you do now?
Well, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, but I think what you're doing is you're classifying how much weight they've put on over the last year, which is a different thing than saying you start off and you're saying you are fat.
It's monitoring them, isn't it?
It's monitoring.
Well,
like they would monitor someone's education.
It's flagging up a problem.
Level.
Yeah, but if you weigh children once a year, then you don't know whether at that point when you weigh them, they might just be about to have a growth spurt. I mean, I know I've got 3 daughters, and I know that before a child goes up, they do sometimes go out a little bit.
Were any of your daughters ever overweight?
No.
Like obese or clinically overweight?
No.
Inga says, Stephen, this is a terrible idea. Kids will have eating disorders before they're 10. Julie says, I refuse to have my child weighed at school. Kids are going to start getting eating disorders or complexes about their body weight and shape. People talk a lot now about mental health and
I know,
anxiety.
and I understand that and I hear it. But, number one, the biggest eating disorder we have got is called obesity. It is the biggest eating disorder. A lot of the leading experts say that it's very, very superficial to suggest that weighing a child, doing a health check with a child once a year is going to trigger an eating disorder. I think it's naive to suggest that. Yes, do it sensitively. Yes, do it from a place of care. But come on, kids are dying because they have the obesity.
But kids are also dying of anorexia. And I think that any...
How many? How many?
Any psychologist...
You have just said on national television, kids are dying of anorexia. How many?
I don't know.
Well,
but what I do know is that if you speak to any psychologist, they will tell you that obesity is far more complicated than eating too much and moving too little. There are all sorts of things going on
Solution?
there.
What's the solution?
But would you think that every single child who's overweight is because they have a mental health issue? I would think a lot of people would say it's because of what they're eating.
Yes.
And it's often because the parents are too fat. Let's not wrap this up. There are some...
So we should be weighing the parents, should we?
Hang on. Some great parents out there, millions of fantastic parents. There are some parents that do not take that responsibility serious.
Yeah. Look, as you say, it's a complex issue, but is this not just one ingredient in actually solving all of this?
I don't. I just think it's a far more complicated thing, and I think we need far more intelligent solutions than sticking kids on scales. I think as a society, we have dug a great big hole for our kids in that we've given them technology that's turned them into couch potatoes.
You're a blamer. Where's the solution? You're not coming up with it. You're just coming up with excuses after excuses.
I think that what we can do as society and what government can do is look at, fixing this in other ways, looking at, educating kids in schools about healthy eating,
and
educating their parents as well.